member of the GJA in good standing. There's also Dr. Wisdom Ewuku, who is a presidential staffer. And then there's myself, Kwachu Fosu, spokesperson to the President and Minister of State Government Communications. Welcome to all of you once again. Ghana, for the past 32 years or so, at least since the return to constitutional rule, has carved a niche as a place for vibrant and rigorous media practice. Indeed, at no time has this been more pronounced than under NDC governments. And in that regard, President Mahama has had occasion to be president on 2 occasions. And in that period, he has upheld the right to free speech and has promoted media freedoms and practice. We are aware that a few challenges remain, but these are challenges that His Excellency and his government have been willing to confront. And all of you can attest that as and when it has mattered, the President and his government have risen to the occasion to safeguard the interests of the Ghanaian media and those who practice within it. We are happy to have you here this afternoon. This is an interaction that is long overdue, given that His Excellency himself is perhaps the most prominent member of the GJA that you can point to in this country at this moment. He has looked forward to this interaction for quite some time and is gratified that this opportunity has presented itself. His Excellency is hopeful that this interaction will yield fruitful outcomes that would inure to the growth of media practice in Ghana and the broadening of the frontiers of free speech. He has an open door policy towards the media. He has a listening ear towards you. He's one of yours, your own, and therefore has been willing to work to ensure that we move from strength to strength in terms of media practice. The bulk of the messaging will come from His Excellency himself. I would not want to, as it were, preempt him. So at this juncture, I would invite the President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Mr. Albert Jumfo, to first introduce members of his team and then make a few remarks to which His Excellency would speak. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, His Excellency, senior government officials, acknowledge the presence of the Deputy Chief of Staff, Executive Secretary, and the Minister in charge of government communication, and my dear sister, Shamima. Shema, you've not paid your dues, so you are not in good stand. Let me put it. Yesterday, I was in Kumasi, and they asked me if President owes. And I said, you've paid for 10 years. And it's news. It's something. I said, but for Shamima, she owes. So she's not in good standing. Yeah. So, Your Excellency, thank you for honoring us. I know. That's good. Your Excellency, thank you for granting us this audience. As mentioned by my good brother, it's long overdue, and I believe that today offers opportunity to re-engage on some of our issues. I'm not here alone. I led a delegation of 10 made up of the new executives and some council of elders. So if you permit me, Excellency, I will introduce the team here. So I have the Vice President of the Association, Ms. Rebecca Ekpe, here. Mr. Dominic Lozi is the General Secretary. We have Mr. Suleiman Mustafa. He is the Organizing Secretary. So, and we have Miss Bertha Bedu Eji, she is the National Treasurer. We have Mr. Zadokwami Jesse, he is the Public Affairs Officer. And Your Excellency, on the side of the Council of Elders, we have no other person than Honorable Mrs. Gifty Afeni Dazi, Esquire. The Esquire is very important because and Your Excellency, she is a former GJA president and a former member of the Council of State. We also have here a veteran and a senior colleague, Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. Your good friend, Your Excellency. Your comrade, I know. And also with us is Mr. Kobi Asuma, former editor, Graphic Communication Group, and current member of the National Media Commission. In fact, representing the Ghana Journalists Association. And also, last but not the least, is Mr. Gabriel Bosompem. He is also a member of the Council of Elders and a former member of the National Media Commission. Your Excellency, having said that, I want to, on behalf of the Ghana Journalists Association and the media in general, applaud you highly for the personal interest shown in the affairs of the media. This is very remarkable. The Ghana Journalists Association commends you, especially in recent times, having directed the Minister of Defense and Interior to investigate assault on joint news crew by soldiers during the demolition of McDonald's warehouse. In fact, I must put on record and state that this is the first time in recent memory that the President of the Republic has directly intervened in a case of assault against journalists. However, we were not surprised at all because you are one of us and a proud member for that matter. We're happy to hear it from your own self, attesting that you are a proud member of us. It is the reason some years or few months ago, we publicly and openly challenged an unfortunate statement made by a lawyer, a very known popular politician for that matter, that a journalist cannot be a president. Mr. President, I can assure you that we are very proud of you, and you have our full support. GJA, Your Excellency, is committed to collaborating with government to address attacks against journalists and other media practitioners through proactive solutions which will involve the security institutions, especially the Ghana Police Service. We want to call on government to support some few issues or challenges confronting us as a fraternity. Your Excellency, at our inauguration, which were duly represented by the Vice President and also the Minister of State in charge of communication, we call on you to support the medical treatment of one of our own, one Pius Asiedu. He is a journalist who was attacked, who was shot in the left leg while covering election coalition at Ablikuma Central in 2020. Your Excellency, he has gone through 4 surgeries and is still struggling to recover. We need you and we call on your good self. We have the assurance from the minister on that very day that we're going to do that. We'll be very grateful and happy to see that. This was done by an operative working at the presidency at the time. And it happened at the same Abrekumanov. Very unfortunate incident. And also remind you of your recent assurance to compensate victims of elections brutalities. There are some few journalists and media practitioners involved who have also suffered such brutalities in recent years. Again, Your Excellency, the environment we find ourselves has made journalism to become a crime. We are all aware that journalism is a profession, and it's not a crime. And for that matter, most or some of our colleagues have also suffered occupational hazard in the line of duty. We want to appeal to your good self for compensation for such practitioners or journalists who had suffered injuries in the line of duty in the form of assault. And we have few here, but I know that when you permit us, we may officially write to you indicating all those who have actually suffered such internal injuries or physical injuries in the discharge of their duties. We have Mr. Latif Idrisu, who has been assaulted twice, one by the police, and the other one by tax of MPP. And I want to commend you, Excellency, that recently, with your intervention, the perpetrators of the recent attack on Latif Idrisu, in fact, one of the suspects was arrested, arraigned before court, and was remanded. This is a big success chopped in the fight against such impunities on the media. So we have Latif Idrisu, we have Erastus Asaridonko, we have Ohimi Teria, we have Theophilus Kwesi Enim Ejei, among others. Your Excellency, attacks have worsened Ghana's ranking on the World Press Freedom Index. We used to be number 1 and dropped to 3, a position we maintained for years till we started declining. This year, we are 52 out of 180 countries, dropping from 50th position last year. Ghana is now occupying the 8th position in Africa. We used to be among the top 3. A very sad and unfortunate development. And we call on you, good self, someone who understands the plight of journalists better, and as part of the fraternity, to find a cure or antidote to end this attack on journalists in order to improve on our ranking. Your Excellency, on the assault on journalists, respectfully, we entreat you to evoke your executive powers to enact a law to empower the security agencies to protect journalists. Since most of these attacks are premeditated and must be treated as aggravated offense. If we continue to treat all assault or attacks on journalists as misdemeanor, Your Excellency, it will not deter or serve as deterrent to others. It's the reason we call on your good self to invoke your office, your executive powers, I think EI, the executive instrument, will help in defining attack on journalists rather than treating it as misdemeanor. The GJA needs your intervention also to secure our land. The Press Center project, Excellency, in one of our private discussions, I made mention of it. This is a property donated to us by your predecessor, President Kufuor, over 20 years ago, under the leadership of our dear mom, lawyer, Giftia Feindazi. We've been occupying this property for years. Just a few years ago, under the previous administration, we nearly lost the ownership of the place. Very, very interesting development. But for a united front and every voices, we would have lost that place. And I believe that it is time, Your Excellency, for you to help us secure the place through the land title and also the Press Center redevelopment. The project is long overdue. The media will be very grateful to you and your office. This will be a fine legacy you will leave behind for the Inky fraternity if we are able to secure the title and also ensure the development of the project within or under your tenure as president. We want to develop the place into an ultra-modern facility because the place is at a very prime location. They want to make good use of it. Your Excellency, GJA needs government intervention also to save our dying state-owned media from collapsing. Ahead of election 2024, Your Excellency, the then presidential candidate, John Mahama, pledged at a media interaction at Kempinski Hotel to retool state media and bring life to it. You even promised that under no circumstance under your tenure will you privatize the state-owned media. So this is just a gentle reminder, Your Excellency, that the state-owned media is struggling, is dying, and we need you. It needs to be retooled, need to bring life into it, production challenges and all that confronting the state media. And I have, in one of our private engagement, raised these issues with you. Excellency, under the previous administration, we have what we called Media Capacity Enhancement Program, MCEP. This helped to build the capacity of journalists in terms of professional development, to ensure professionalism and adhere to standards. Unfortunately, due to funds, that project or program couldn't survive. We want to call on you. I know in your first administration, there was something around Media Development Fund. We want to create your indulgence and appeal to you and your office that it is important we establish the Media Development Fund to help build the capacity of journalists and the media in general, and also to even support the media in some aspect, in some times. We appeal to you, Your Excellency, for your support in the organization of this year's GJA Media Awards, your own awards. And also one challenge or one major need we would want you to help us tackle is that we need special awards for Journalists of the Year to serve as a motivational tool. Because what we have realized is that in the past, there were donations like vehicles, houses, and all that. In recent years, we don't get it. And so, Your Excellency, we will need you in that regard. And finally, in conclusion, I want to, on behalf of the National Executive and the National Council, respectfully invite you, Your Excellency, to grade this year's GJA Awards. Your Excellency, the GJA Award has been held in Accra for 28 years. This year, with my team in consultation with key stakeholders, I've decided to move the award from Accra to Kumasi. And, Excellency, I'm glad or I'm happy, so much excited to inform you that the King, Otumfuo Osei II, has agreed to host the awards at Menchia this year for us. And so when we discussed, he said, go to the president, leave the date with him, let him let him confirm his availability and convenience, then we can firm it up. So, Your Excellency, we are hoping to host the award at the end of October or the first week of November, subject to your availability and convenience. On that note, I once again want to thank you for this wonderful reception and audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, GJA President. It is now my honor to invite His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana and member in good standing of the Ghana Journalists Association, to make his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me begin by congratulating the executive for your recent election and to say how pleased my government is to work with you, the media. I've been a fellow traveler for quite a long time, and by virtue of my training as a journalist, I remember the early days when I did my internship in GBC, and Madam Afeni Dazi was the news editor. And I worked in the newsroom. That is when I practicalized my skill in story writing and all that. Our lecturer, Professor Karkari, was the one who taught us journalism, and I did my internship in GBC. Others were attached to Graphic, Ghanaian Times, and all the other news organizations. But in later years, I was to find myself on the other side, having entered politics and appointed as Deputy Minister of Communications by virtue of my training. And so it was a very interesting time. Comrade Kwesi Pratt, Kweku Bakun, and all of them had been in the fight for media freedom. They had been arrested and jailed several times. And eventually the 1992 Constitution had been written. And so the early years of opening up the media space, I got involved in that when I came into government in 1997. And by then the Radio Eye issues and things had all taken place, Tarzan and all the escapades. At the time I came in, things had settled down a bit, but people were still getting used to the new regime. Joy FM was there, Gold was there. Peace FM and Co had not yet come on stream. Yes, and these were more independent media, and their reporting could be quite uncomfortable. And so as Minister of Communications, first Deputy Minister and then Minister, I really had a hard time, containing government communications. But it was a good experience. I constantly had to go on programs to try and explain what government's position was. And it was not easy with the kind of boss I had. I mean, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, he was very unorthodox. And so sometimes he would go and say something, and I have to crack my head and say, now how am I going to explain this to But somehow we managed to get through with it. And the media has come a long way since then. And I believe that the major catalyst for this has been the 1992 Constitution. It's been one of our most progressive constitutions in the history of Ghana, especially the inclusion of Chapter 12, specifically on the media, indicating media freedoms and what needed to be done to protect the media. And for the first time, licensing was taken away, so anybody could establish a media house without the kind of restriction that used to exist before. And so we've come a long way since then. But since then, a lot of things have changed. And one of the major changes in the media landscape is technology and the new media. And so we don't have traditional media as we knew it. In terms of media houses, you either had a newspaper publishing organization or you had a broadcasting organization. The media has become a bit decentralized, and because anybody who has a phone and a camera can report news to the public. And it means that communications is dealing with a wider range of people, not only traditional, well-organized media houses, but also individuals, especially the new group called bloggers, who go to events with journalists and vie for positions with them to get the best shots and the best stories, and they just go with their phone, edit, and then they put the news out. So the media landscape has changed, and the sources of information has changed. And in many cases, it is those people who are setting the agenda, because for most of our stations in the morning, they're taking a lot of news from what 1957 covered or what GH something covered. And they have all these, their little inscriptions they put on their videos. And that drives the discussion in the morning. So they become a very important part of that segment, but are unregulated. And so sometimes they go to the extreme. The language is filthy. I mean, they can just, go to town, either insulting somebody or sometimes on the limits of hate speech. And these are things that in the whole world, people are beginning to look at and say, how can we regulate hate speech? How can we regulate, extreme foul language, And so it's just an issue I'm raising so that all of us can begin to think about it. And the point is, would we classify them in the typical sense of journalists? I mean, those bloggers, are they typically journalists? Those are all questions that must agitate our minds. It has been, like the President said, we've seen a consistent decline in our international rankings, and that is an issue of concern for us. And part of it is because of issues to do with harassment of journalists and even the unfortunate murder of Ahmed Swali, which caught international attention. And I think that since then, other incidents that have occurred have, diminished our ranking. And so we need to find a way of, one, ensuring that people, when they do that kind of thing, face sanctions or are punished. Because once there's no deterrent, they continue to do it. Or aside from that, to educate and create awareness that journalists are not enemies. They are reporting something that is happening. And so they must be given a free leverage to be able to do their reporting. Many times when I go to a function and I'm seated, I normally look at the way the journalists are being handled. And you find that there are some security personnel who just have a knack for harassing journalists. I mean, they are not harming anybody. They are standing, they are filming. Then somebody comes, you can't stand here, you can't stand there, move, you know. And I said, what have they done? So sometimes I have to shout and say, leave them, let them do their job, you know. And so I think that we need to create awareness in the minds of these people. Some of them are police officers, some are military officers, some are national security, and especially national security, you know. They don't have training to understand that, you know, journalists are doing their work. You have the job of protecting the VIP or whatever. The journalists too have their work of reporting, you know, what they doing their job and reporting what is going on there. And so we must find a way, and I told President that I'll want, you know, Felix and the ministers of security agencies to create a certain forum where the Journalists Association and these security agencies can interact so that it sends a message to them that, look, journalists are not your enemies. They are there to do their legitimate job of informing the people. And so they are not subject to harassment. With regards to the state-owned media, they are caught up in what I described as the changing media. So because the landscape has changed and people get their information from more sources than before, it means that people are reading fewer newspapers. People are watching less of the traditional media and getting a lot of their information from short videos and bloggers and other things. And so it is not enough to just retool them. It will be important to retool them, but also see how they can enhance their production so that they continue to remain relevant. We can take best practices from abroad, from New York Times and Financial Times and all of that. I mean, they themselves have seen a drop in the actual purchase of hard copies. But then they have quickly switched to online and have very effective online subscriptions. And so they tease you with a very interesting story. And then when you open, you read a bit of it, then it stops. And then it says subscribe. Meanwhile, the story is interesting. You want to know exactly what is there. So then you can just press subscribe. Then it says, oh, 1 month trial. Pay this, you know. And so if you pay, then you become a subscriber. And then they keep sending you notifications and all that about new stories that are coming. So we need to adopt some of those practices. Graphic has a good online system, and I think that we can improve it. And we should follow suit with, you know, Ghanaian Times and all of them, so that we are taking the media to the digital age. But like I said, there's still a role for state-owned media, and we must protect the state. Some people say we should divest all of them and make them private, but I think that public broadcasting is not always commercial and profit-making. Yeah, I mean, who will do the local language education if GBC were not there? I mean, nobody who has a private station wants to do adult education in Ewe and adult education in Dagbani and things like that. It's GBC that will do it. But it's also important because there's a segment of the population who watch it avidly because it educates them on a lot of things. But I think we should also improve the programming so that it makes it more exciting and all that. people now want more illustration. And so just having people sitting there for 1 hour and talking and discussing something can get boring. They will tune off. But if they are discussing and you're showing literally what they are talking about, and this, it makes the program more interesting. So that's one of the things that we need to look at. Elections come with a lot of emotive feelings. And sometimes when people get very emotive, they can act very irrationally. And like you said, it's not only innocent bystanders and political activists who have been caught up in electoral violence. Journalists have also been caught up in electoral violence. I asked the IGP in the early days when I assumed the presidency to investigate the violence in 2020 and 2024. I wish to inform you that last week I received the investigative report on the two incidents, and they've detailed and cataloged everybody who was affected by the violence and what the circumstances were that led to the violence. We've handed it over to the Attorney General, so the Attorney General is going to go through, and if there's a need to hold some people culpable and bring them to book, the Attorney General will do that. But in addition, we have given him the terms of reference to look at what adequate compensation would be for people who have been the victims of violence, including those who died. Their families are still there, and then those who were, some have been injured and are living with injury. And so what is the adequate compensation that we can give to people like that? And so once that is done, I'm sure that if there were journalists involved, they would also be considered for compensation. With regards to the Media Development Fund, I mentioned to you that we're ready to resuscitate it. It was something that we initiated early, and then there was a confusion about how the fund was administered, and so a premature death. But I think that we're all more matured now, and we would put in a mechanism that makes it more transparent and easier for journalists to benefit from the fund. So I think that in next year's budget, under Government Communications Department, the fund will be activated and some money will be put in it. And what I believe is that between government and the GJA, we'll constitute a board of trustees that will indicate how the fund should be utilized. And finally, I'm surprised that you still don't have land title for the press center land. It's unfortunate because this land was donated more than 20 years ago. And I think that all of us were very proud and appreciated the gesture that President Kufuor did in giving the press center. We have had events there many times, and I've been at the press center to witness events and even participate in some events. So I think that the time has come for us to get the Lands Commission to process that so that in future nobody can come and take it away from you. So that in future nobody can come and take it away from you. So let's work on that, but also look at the designs and costings you've made for developing that. And I think that government will be prepared to lend you a hand in developing the structures that you want. I'm sure not only government, there are many institutions, corporate institutions out of their CSR that will be willing to chip in order to create a modern, a GJA press center for Ghana. Because, I mean, it's not only for your use, it is for the use of the whole nation. And so it's something that we'll encourage. So these are the few things that I'll say. But what I want to commit to you is that we're going to work together with you to make sure that we improve our rankings again in the international rankings so that Ghana resumes its pride of place as the beacon of media freedom not only in West Africa, but in the whole of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those compelling words. We would bring the program to a close, but not without thanking you sincerely for showing up and having this interaction with the President. As he has indicated, government remains willing to work with you to find common ground on the issues that matter and the issues that will lead to the development of the media space and journalistic practice. I also hope that this becomes the first of many such interactions, which will then afford a platform to discuss matters that are relevant to the work that you do. Thank you all once again for coming. Yes, we are good. Yeah. Okay.
You should let us see the budget for the awards ceremony. Give it to Felix, and then we'll see what we can contribute to it.
Oh, no, this I should give it. Absolutely. So I'll wait for the budget. So, but when we step out, we'll take a group photograph to commemorate this important occasion. Thank you very much.
Right, so that was the GJA calling on President Mahama. A number of issues that the GJA requested from the president was to evoke an executive instrument to stop attacks on journalists. They also appealed to the president for compensation for journalists who have been attacked in the line of duty. They also appealed to the president to secure the press center land that was given to them under former President John Agyekum Kufuor. They've also asked the president to re-establish the Media Development Fund and set up a special award for Journalists of the Year to motivate winners. And in turn, President John Dramani Mahama mentioned that sometimes the language used by bloggers is a bit faulty. He also said that security personnel have a knack for attacking journalists. Another important thing that the president touched on was that there's still a role for state-owned media and that they just need to adapt to the growing times. And he tasked the IGP when he assumed office to investigate the violence that marred previous elections. And the report, he said, had been handed over to him, which he had in turn handed over to the Attorney General to act on, and adequate compensation will be given to families of the victims who died in those incidents. He also mentioned that the Media Development Fund will be resuscitated, and in next year's budget, the fund will be reactivated and guidelines given for that particular fund. In all, he mentioned that they will begin to he assured the GJA that they will work hand in hand to improve our press freedom ranking. We return back to normal programming. I'm Inu Safo. Thanks for watching.